Have you ever had a moment when something deep inside you whispered, "This isn't the life you were meant for"? A moment you couldn't ignore, even if the outside world thought everything looked fine. Today's guest listened to that whisper, and it changed everything. Stay with me to learn more.
Welcome to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. You may have made the decision not to drink alcohol, or at the very least, not at work-related events. Whether you've never been a drinker, are in recovery, or made a health-related decision, we see you, and you are not alone. In today's world, networking, socializing, and celebrations often happen over drinks, and the struggle can be real. Through this podcast, we're changing that narrative. We're here to create a community where individuals like you, who choose not to drink or drink less, can find camaraderie, support, and practical advice.
Hi, I'm Margie Schaller, host of the Sober Life Rocks podcast, and I want to start by saying thank you for listening. It truly means a lot to me and our whole team that we can connect with you in this space. My guest today is someone who works at the intersection of recovery, intuition, and energetic healing. Brigitta Dau is a mind, body, soul coach whose work blends life coaching, nervous system support, creative expression, and Reiki energy healing. She helps people reconnect with the wisdom they abandoned long before the substances ever showed up. And she does it with a groundedness that makes even the most skeptical person breathe a little easier. Brigitta has walked through her own recovery from alcohol, tobacco, and food patterns, and she brings honesty, softness, and a spiritual clarity into every space she enters. Brigitta, welcome to Sober Life Rocks.
Thank you. What a wonderful intro. Thank you
Oh
so
my
much. I'm
gosh.
really excited to talk about this with you today.
Yeah, I mean, you and I just met like a couple weeks ago, and
Yeah.
I immediately felt a connection to you. And I think, your energy does that probably with lots of people, but it definitely connected with me. So I kind of want to just start with, before we talk about sobriety or Reiki or healing,
Yeah.
I want to go straight to the moment everything shifted for you. Like, was there a single moment when your soul just stepped forward and said, "You can't live like this anymore"?
Yeah. You're talking specifically about alcohol. Is that
Hmm.
particular journey? Yeah, it was funny. I wish I could say that it was because I did. I did get scary news from a blood test that my liver enzymes were not good. And that frightened me a lot. And I knew, okay, I have to make a change. And I saw a hematologist, and I'm also a journaler, so I can track exactly when things did happen because I can go back and read my journal. So my mind thought, oh, that's the day that everything changed. Actually, it didn't. But I think that's the day the seed had been planted, it started to take root, and I think I started to um, relax my nervous system, do what I needed to do so that then I could make the big change, which was about a week later. So I met with the hematologist. I said to him out loud, I have to stop drinking. I knew what the problem was. It wasn't like it was a mystery to me. I knew that that was one of the problems that I was dealing with. And we had the conversation, and I said, I'll be able to do it. And then I just didn't do it yet. But I think it took about 2 or 3 days after that. So it was pretty close. And I think it took me getting my mind, body, soul, everything in gear and willing to risk everything. I was under the false belief that if I gave up alcohol, there was a good chance that my marriage wouldn't survive it because I was using it as a coping strategy, a terrible coping strategy, but it was the coping strategy I was using. I thought I would never have fun again. I would definitely be the most boring person on the planet. And I'd have to kind of settle for a 30% of happiness for the rest of my life, that I'd
Mm,
never be 100% happy again.
I can so relate to that.
Right.
So
None of
walk
that's
me back
true.
to sort of like where did alcohol kind of start in your life, and what was it looking like kind of through that journey of getting to that moment?
Getting to that moment. It started when I was a teenager and I was the Bartles and Jane's wine cooler girl. And I didn't really drink that much, but I know it's like, wow, we're dating ourselves, but that was a thing. And that was sort of what the girls drank, you know. And I will say in my defense, we always had a designated driver, which was
Was
interesting.
not you.
It was not me, but he got the best food. We made sure he had plenty of great food, and he would drive us and we would drink. But it wasn't really a problem. And even through, I would go for periods of time where I wouldn't drink, years where I wouldn't drink at all. And then times where I would be probably binge drinking, I guess I would call it, where I'd drink on the weekends. Um, my
Now
history,
you,
my 20, Mhm.
now you were an actress.
I was just going to say in my early 20s, well, for 15 years, I was a professional actress. So I worked in Canada and the United States. I was on a series. I was working full time. So I didn't have time to drink. I didn't want to drink. And I was also very interested in keeping my acting job and also looking good. So a heavy drinking problem doesn't support looking great for actresses. So I just didn't drink a lot. I was smoking heavily,
Mm,
and I had disordered eating throughout that time. Um, but the drinking, so I would stop. I would stop. So I never really thought it was a problem.
mm,
And then it wasn't until my 40s, when for some reason alcohol just, well, I had stopped acting at that point. So I think my hypervigilance had changed
mm,
and alcohol soothed. It seemed to do what I needed it to do in a way that I'd gotten over my food issues, or I thought. And so then alcohol came into play, and then it steadily got worse and worse until the pandemic, where it was the pandemic. I'm a crafter, so the first 3 weeks were great for me because I could finish all these projects I hadn't finished. I was
mm.
knitting up a storm and doing all these things, but then it kept going and going and going, and then the alcohol for me just blew up, and it was becoming an absolute daily thing. And
You
my
know,
journals then were very different. They were saying the days that you don't drink, you're happier. It's so obvious. It was
mm,
like night and day, but I still wasn't listening. And each day would be, I'm not going to drink today. And then by whatever time, because it was the pandemic, it could have been noon, I'd already given up on that and I was already drinking. And the journaling was really an interesting, um, heartbreaking thing to read, because what I will say about myself during that time was I was searching. I was lost. I was so lost. I was so isolated, hurting, lost, and searching. And I just kept turning back to alcohol. And
mm.
if I'd known the one thing was causing me the problem, it wasn't the only thing, but
Well, so that's my next question I wanted to ask
yeah,
you is I think about these and the stories are the same. Like we use the substances as coping mechanisms.
yeah.
And these coping mechanisms, they always show up with a job.
Mhm.
They're there to, we think, protect us from something.
Yeah.
So when you look back now with the clarity of not having those coping mechanisms be substances, what were you trying to quiet or numb or outrun? And how long had that been building in you?
That's a great question. I think I went through a turbulent time when I decided to stop acting. And then I went into Pilates, which was lovely. And I still am a Pilates instructor. And it was, it made sense. In hindsight, everything made perfect. I can see why I did what I did. But that even felt to me, I think, like a venturing off of the path of what I'm really here to do, is to create the space to empower other people to live their best lives, quite frankly. And I did that when I was acting. My feeling on acting was not so much about the fame and the fun, but it was that people are tired at the end of the day. So they turn on the television because they're too exhausted to feel anything. So they can experience all these different feelings and live vicariously through these characters, and they get to live this passionate life, or comedy or tragedy, whatever. All of it, there's room for all of it. And so that to me was a really big deal. And so when I stopped acting, I lost my center. Also,
Mm.
acting had been my way out of my family of origin, where having emotions was really not an acceptable thing to do. But when you're acting, you get to have all the emotions and you can hide in plain
And you're
sight.
praised for it.
You're paid. I mean, if you're lucky, you get paid for it, right? Yeah, you're praised for it, all the things. And then I get to show up in front of people, but it's not really me because I'm behind a character, I'm behind
Mhm.
words that aren't mine. And I get to feel all the feels, and they're usually even bigger than what you would feel in real life anyway. So it's kind of extra fun. And so all of that, that left a huge void of how do I human? How do I
Mm-hmm.
human? And I had no skills on boundaries. I had no skills on agency. I didn't have real agency in my life. And I don't think I knew that I didn't have agency in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's almost like here I was in my 30s and I was thrown into being an adult and I had no tools.
You know what's so funny about that? Like, I'm wondering if everybody has that moment. I remember for me, I was in a treatment center and I was not a problem because everybody else around me had so much worse visible problems. The job that they lost, the family that they lost, the bruises and cuts and scrapes from, falling on their face. And I still had all those things. And I remember going to they bring in people from outside like AA and they kind of have these panel talks where they share their story. And this guy shared about the boat and the house and the wife and the kids that he all still had. And then he said, but I realized I didn't have anything inside.
Mm, yeah.
And that was the moment for me that I admitted that I had a problem because I remember thinking like, if I'm not doing this, who am I?
Yeah. 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 And that's that quiet voice. And
Mhm.
sometimes not so quiet also. It can be yelling. I mean, my journals, again, were very, very, very clear. There was an internal part of me saying, "You're not meant for this. This is not why you were born."
Mhm.
And yet I guess it was communicating to me in a frequency that I just couldn't hear it yet.
Mhm.
It had to get loud enough.
Okay, so 3 to 5 days after you got this liver enzyme test and things began to align, what happened?
I was open. I knew I needed to make a shift. I, of course, thought I would just go at it alone, and which was never a good idea. But I started with that. And then honestly, what happened is through my Facebook feed in popped Sober Sis, Jen Couch. And I
Mhm.
thought, huh. And I had a bunch of resistance about it, all sorts of resistance. And then I did listen to the part of me that said, just give it a shot. It's 21 days. You can afford it. It's cheaper than drinking. You need to do this with liver. It'll get you started. Start there. And so I signed up, and the 21-day reset, I actually didn't go 21 days without alcohol. Even that, I was slipping and sliding and had what she called data points. It was not linear. But on August 22nd, so I started the 21-day reset August 1st of 2022. On August 22nd, so not the 21 days, but August 22nd, that was day one for me of the linear journey.
Mhm.
Because again, I'd done enough. I had a connection group now. I now had people I could talk to. The shame was starting to go away because, and that was the other thing that really attracted me to Jen was here was a woman who looked beautiful and normal and lovely, and she was talking about drinking a bottle of wine a day. And I thought, oh, so it's not horrible then. Because I don't know where I came up with this notion that once you hit a bottle, you're a terrible person. I don't know. And then once you hit the bottle, then you might as well go for two because it doesn't matter, right?
Sure.
I don't know where I came up with that one, but here she was talking about it. And I thought, okay, I'm not a horrible person. I can do this. And so I think all of those components came into play. And I signed up for her 10-week program. I think it's 10 weeks for AF, a living alcohol-free lifestyle, because then I said, okay, you got to give this a try. And if here was the deal I made with myself, if you're still miserable after 10 weeks without drinking, and if
Mhm.
it doesn't help, you can go back to drinking.
Yeah.
And I signed up. I was like, all right, I can do that. I can do anything for 10 weeks.
In my early days in AA, they used to say, stay sober for 90 days, and if at the end you are not happier, we will gladly refund your misery.
That's true. But it's honestly, it's just like when I gave up smoking, the idea of never smoking again for the rest of my life flipped me out. I couldn't do
Hmm.
it. But if I knew I could just do it for a certain amount of time and see, then I could do that. And that's how I quit. And that's exactly how I did it with alcohol, honestly, was just moving the goalpost, just saying, okay, let's just get through this. Let's just get through this. And then my
Hmm.
journaling helped because every time I got through whatever the event was, the next day I would write, thank God I didn't drink. You know,
Hmm.
as you know, there's never been a journal entry that said, I really wish I drank last night. Never, ever. Doesn't matter how bad it
Even
was.
for drinkers.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to shift
Yeah.
a little bit now to a lot of people think of energy work as like woo woo or that it
Yeah.
actually doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
But a recovery from all of these things often requires a massive rewiring. And so I kind of want to start with when you look at your own journey, what was happening energetically when you stopped using substances to cope? Was it like a collapse? Was it a surrender? Was it a crack of light or something else entirely?
Oh, wow. Interesting. I had started studying Reiki. I was a Reiki practitioner, so that means first levels, while I was still drinking. And I think that's worth noting because you can receive Reiki under the influence. You can send Reiki under the influence, but it's never going to be as good
Mhm.
as it will be if you're clear-minded and if your body is relatively, as clear as it can be living the lives that we live.
So
Um,
before you move on, I can't stop without saying, can you just define what Reiki is for
Oh,
people who've
of
never heard of
course,
it?
yes. We should talk about that. And Reiki energy is it's a Japanese energy technique that supports healing, it supports energy, supports stress reduction. I find that it's a beautiful tool for clarity. I see it as sort of the cosmic dustbuster that comes in and just sucks out all the things that are kind of getting in the way, just the dust. It's like a nice spring cleaning. And then you're still left with your truth and your authenticity and your decisions and your life and the things you may or may not need to do. But it's clear. And there's a softness to it. That's always for your highest good. So it's very loving.
So, as the practical person,
Yeah.
that was a lot of words that didn't say anything to me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, when I say it's like if you are looking at a relationship with someone and you have a lot of baggage around it, right?
Hmm.
Then you can't have clarity
Hmm.
with the baggage still there. What Reiki will do is show you that clarity. The baggage might still need to be removed. It's
And
not
so,
going to do
what does
magic
a
for
Reiki
you.
practitioner do?
We actually re focus, that's the best word for me to say, focused and direct healing energy to the practitioner or the group, to the recipient, I should say, or the group. So Reiki energy is similar to, well, I'll use the sun. So the sun is shining right now. And if I close all my blinds, the sun is still there. I'm just not in connection to it. I'm not co-creating
Mm.
with it. But if I open the blinds, now I can co-create. So, a Reiki practitioner, a Reiki master, which is what I am now, I support you through taking you through a guided meditation, getting you into the right space where you can receive the energy and then you will receive the energy so you can do what it is, what's going to be for your highest good, which for some people is learning things. For some people, it is about finally letting go of something.
Mhm.
And when you talked about energy before, a great way of the I don't like to say negative, but sort of that dense energy that you feel when you're under the influence. It's much like when you go to the airport and you go to pick up your luggage from the carousel, and there's one piece of luggage that's still there from the previous flight and or wherever, and it's
Mhm.
just sort of it's going around the carousel and nobody's picking it up because it's just that's what the dense energy feels like. It's just orbiting and it will not be removed on its own.
Mhm.
A baggage handler or you, somebody needs to come and take that thing off of there. Reiki supports that. It supports letting go of these denser energies so that then you
Okay.
can, with clarity, take a look at your life and
Super helpful.
feel
Thank
more
you.
authentic, to be honest. And then those things, you might have hard decisions or not. You might have
Yeah.
wonderful things happening. But if there's anything like giving up alcohol, in and because I do think that Reiki supported me in coming to terms with having to give up alcohol. When you're faced with a decision that's going to likely change your life, and we don't know how it's going to be, and I was assuming it would not be great, um, it softens the decision making. It
Mm,
creates a space of faith, and also because there are so many people, Reiki practitioners in the world, there's a strength in numbers with that. Just
mhm.
like there are a lot of people who've given up alcohol and other substances. And I don't know them personally, but that doesn't matter. There's an energetic connection to people have
Yes.
walked this walk before and they survived and they're not having horrible lives. Some people are thriving even. So I can lean
Most.
into that.
Yeah.
Does that make
Per
sense?
Absolutely. Okay, so now that we have those definitions and that concept, now
Yeah.
let's go back to you. And when you were making these decisions, what was energetically showing up for you? Was it a resistance? Was it a that burst of light? Like what was happening for you?
I I honestly think I got so uncomfortable with where I was. It was energetically apparent to me. It was choose. You have to choose. And this is where because I do get this often where people think, oh, I can have Reiki and it'll take care of all the problems. No, just like giving up alcohol won't take care of all your problems. No, it won't. But with energy work in particular, you choose the path. Energy, it's sort of like walking with someone who has a lantern. They'll light the path for you. They'll give you the clarity, but you've got to take the steps. You've got to open the door. You've got to choose. You
Mm-hmm.
really do. And I felt I was at that point where I knew I could choose it and I knew that there would be support for me energetically. I didn't know how that was going to look. I didn't know. But
Mm-hmm.
I jumped off the cliff and taking risks enough time in my past that I knew on some level that I would be okay. Somehow I would be held. It would be okay. It would work out. It was just absolute faith.
Mm. I mean, that's amazing because for so many of us, it is literally walking into what our fears are,
Yeah.
moving forward into our fears. And yet you said that through this, you had the fears, but the knowing that it was going to be okay.
The reason I felt that I knew it was going to be okay was I just knew that this level of suffering wasn't okay.
Yeah.
And it was suffering over something that I was creating, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't being forced to drink. I wasn't do nothing was happening to me other than what I was doing to myself. And I do believe that we're here for a higher good.
Yeah.
I just knew that this wasn't it. So I had to be willing to go through whatever it was I was going to go through to get to whatever healing looked like for me.
Okay. So in the beginning, you said that your fears were that you were going to lose your marriage, that you were going to um, never have fun again.
Yeah.
And there was a third one. I can't remember what it
Oh, be
was.
boring.
Oh,
And
be boring. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So did those things happen?
None of those things happened. No, none of them. Is that's the best myth busting moment ever, right? Nope, none of
Yeah,
it. Didn't lose any
absolutely.
friends.
So what was it like for you in those times? Did you immediately tell people that you were no longer drinking, or is that something that you kind of came to at a certain point?
That's interesting. Yes and no. So I told nobody of the 21-day reset, including my husband. I told
Really?
nobody, I did not tell my husband that I was in Jen's program until at least 6 weeks in, I think, because my husband, as much as he loves me, he's my greatest cheerleader, but he can be my biggest critic. And
Hmm.
we weren't doing well at that
Yeah.
time. And I needed every bit of grace that I could possibly have. I needed only support.
Yeah.
And this is where getting over eating disorders and getting over a major addiction to nicotine helped me because I'd done it before. And I had a sense that I need to, what do we say? We say protect it, right? Protect it. And
Bubble wrap ourselves for a bit.
yeah, really, I needed everything. This needed whatever it took to keep to protect this, like it's your firstborn. This is really important to me. And then when I did tell people, there were only a few people I told, and I told them my liver was a mess and that I was giving up alcohol and here's what I was doing. And they said, "What can I do to help?" And
Mm.
I said nothing really. And again, interesting, I lost no friends over this. I think I'm the one who drank the most. I'm probably the one who, if I was
Instigated.
ordering wine, they would order
Hmm.
wine, but if I
Hmm.
wasn't, they wouldn't. I think I was, interesting. And so then um, at a certain point, I did tell my husband because I knew it was going to get awkward.
Yeah.
And I'd be saying, "I'm going on a Zoom call," and he'd be saying, "With who?" And I said, "Well, I realized I'd have to tell him the truth
Yeah.
and that I'd given it up. And I think was a little wary at first, but he's been nothing but supportive about it and didn't pry
Amazing.
and just let me come forward and share things as they were coming, as I was ready to. And then my other friends, the only thing they say is, "How's your liver? Have you got any news? How's it going?" Now 3 years after, it's fine. It's great. It's all healed. Everything's wonderful. But that was the biggest concern. Yeah, that's how, and now I talk about it openly. But part of it too is I'm lucky. I came to this sobriety or alcohol living in a time where we talk about it and we're
Mhm.
not embarrassed by it. We've taken the people who were before me, for example, Sober Sis, and I know Annie Grace is another big person in this world where the shame is taken out. It's not a character flaw. It's an addictive substance that was marketed to you in a way that, you fell for. There's no shame in it, just like the eating disorders. There's no shame in that, you know. But
Well, and I will acknowledge that while that is the messaging that all of us are putting out, and that's one of the things that we care so passionately about at Sober Life Rocks, it's still out there.
yeah,
There are still people out there who we've talked to who they're sober but have never told their boss. And they go to company meetings where everybody's drinking and they quietly suffer. And there are people who haven't told their friend group because they're afraid of losing their friend group.
yeah.
So I would just encourage people to not leap into something that you're not ready for. You
Oh,
know, don't
absolutely.
don't do the things just because we say it should be normalized, but begin to consider whether or not these stories that you hear again and again and again on the podcast, where somebody like Brigitta told a couple of friends, and the immediate response was, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing. How can I help?" That has been the truth that we've heard from people again and again and again. So I don't think it has to be a loud, like from the rooftops, shouting to everybody, but
Yeah,
it can be just a one-on-one conversation to test the waters with
yeah,
somebody that you trust that loves you.
yeah. And I think for me also going forward, it's interesting to me how many people actually don't drink.
Right.
And it's fascinating to me, and maybe who didn't or who just weren't really interested in it. I will say this, I was prepared when I first gave up alcohol with what I would say with people. Um, some people would get a reason that was true, but not 100% true. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say, menopause, nightmare.
Yeah.
Guess what? I
Health
gave up
reasons.
alcohol. Hot flashes are gone. Thank you very much. That to any woman, they are not going to say, "Oh, you should have hot flashes. Here, have some wine with me." No, that's never going to, it's always going to be, it's actually a conversation now.
Yeah.
This helped me in this area. And then a few people would hear about, "Oh, my liver was a problem," because that was embarrassing for me. Um,
Mm.
I carried shame around that at first, but it also was if it was a person, if I felt like I was being pressured in any way to drink, worst case scenario, I could say, "Well, my liver can't take it anymore." And again, no one, unless they're a horrible human, are going to say, "No, forget your liver, just drink." That's just not going to be, I won't
Yeah.
have much resistance. So again, I was protecting myself. So I would have answers if people were asking, "Oh, you're not drinking. How come?" Here's why.
Absolutely. Yep.
And as I got more comfortable, and I have to say it was probably after a year at least, probably a year, I realized I kind of should come up with a more truthful answer should people ask. And I still test the waters. I don't tell them the whole story unless they really want to know. And then if they want to know,
Mm-hmm.
sure, I'm an open book.
So I want to fast forward to today because you are an amazing coach. So tell me some of the stuff that you offer through your coaching.
Yeah, I offer a lot of different ways to work with me. So I have coming up in January, I'm starting a new group coaching. It's called the Momentum Collective. This is a small group of people. We'll be group coaching. I'll include Reiki every week with that and working on obstacles, overcoming those obstacles, creating momentum with community, with energetic support. When you put all those things together, momentum is actually it's predictable. It's expected, so that will happen. Also, I based that whole program on my experience of how momentum has kicked in as soon as I got my energy, my goals, my getting over my obstacles, finding my support system. It really was that momentum became my new normal. It was predictable. So I'm really excited about that. I also
And
do
is that
one-on-one.
just for people who are sober?
Nope, anybody can join. It can be men or women. I
Nice.
tend to work with women, but I don't say that I only work with women, but I work with more women than men. I also offer a monthly energetic. Uh, this is my favorite class that I offer: Synergistic Saturdays and Synergistic Sundays, and it's the second Saturday and Sunday of the month. It's only 1 hour, and I send out journal prompts ahead of time. I have no idea who does the journal prompts. It's an option. People can do it or not. And then we meet at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard on Zoom. We talk a little bit. We do a little bit of movement. Again, my Pilates training um, uh, uh, reminds me of the importance of becoming present in our bodies. So we just do a little bit of movement. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's a full 30-minute Reiki transmission where people
Mm.
lay down, close their eyes. I play some music. They receive Reiki. We have a conversation afterwards about any experiences they had, and then we meet again the next month. So it's a beautiful stay-at-home self-care. And that's a wonderful thing to do in addition to any coaching, any therapy, anything that you are doing in your life. It's a really doable 1 hour a month where you can say, me and the pets, by the way, pets love the Reiki. So me and my pets are going to have an hour to ourselves. And it's just beautiful to see the magic that is happening with those groups.
Mm.
And again, these are people from all over the world, and they've become really tight, and they always welcome anybody new in so beautifully. So that group is so near and dear to me. I love them, and yeah, and I'm available for one-on-ones in Reiki and coaching. Usually, when I work with people for Reiki, there's coaching involved because
Mm-hmm.
unless I, there's always going to be an exception, but generally there's going to have to be a conversation of what's going on,
Yes.
what are some, and this is the other beautiful thing with Reiki is there's a very practical aspect to it. Rarely do I have a session with someone where they just say, "Oh, it was just amazing and we'll see what happens." Usually there's a very clear bit of information that comes through. So
Mm.
I'll say one recently I did a group Reiki session, and one woman was talking about how she was in a forest visualizing it, but there was a really great tree trunk, and there were all these birds in the air. And she said, "Oh, I guess the birds." I said, "There were no birds in the air, by the way, when we were doing this. So that was for your experience. Nothing flew overhead. I was here." And so that was interesting. So we talked about it, and she was at a crossroads, not so much a crossroads. She was getting ready to make a decision and to move forward in an area in her life. I said, "This is beautiful. There's a tree," and it was a big tree trunk. She kept talking about that. I said, "There's some ancient wisdom, there's grounding, and there's
Mm-hmm.
freedom and liberation with the birds, and there's singing." Okay. So there's something also you can use your voice in what's coming forward. Does this resonate? And she was big eye. It was her first time doing Reiki with me, so her eyes were like big saucers. And she said, "I can't believe that." And this is why I love Reiki so much. Again, it's the dust buster. It just cleared everything out of the way and said, "Here's what you do. Make sure you're grounded. Listen to the ancient, there's wisdom here somewhere. There's someone in your life who can teach you something. So go find out who that person is. Talk to them. You have and do it. Do the thing. You're liberated with voice, with song. Gorgeous.
Mm.
Beautiful."
Nice.
Clear
Nice.
as a bell and very actionable. So it's
Nice.
not woo-woo.
Yeah.
It's it's very actionable in a
Well, I
beautiful.
can't I can't finish our time together without telling you that we have a shared passion for crafting.
Yes.
And I had always had this messaging when I was a kid that I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at painting or drawing, and so I carried that story with me all the time. And yet, I was always drawn to just creating things, and people would be like, "Oh my gosh, that's so good." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not any good at it." And it was actually when I was getting sober, and I was given the gift of working with an art therapist a couple of times.
Wow.
And we just took the opportunity for me to go into that like toddler place and with my eyes closed, through a meditation, get there with my eyes closed, just start drawing. And the things that I drew that reached into that part of my past that I cannot remember were amazing.
Wow.
And it just freed up for me
Yeah.
that it's not about performance, that whatever the physical manifestation of your crafting is
Yeah.
about the experience. And for me today, I'm a watercolor painter and I do it for the meditation value.
Yeah.
And for a period of time, I was on a huge knitting journey and it was
Mhm.
about the meditation value because my mind is so busy
Yeah.
that it was a great way for me just to be absolutely present in this moment, doing these things and just release the thinking, which is
Yeah.
what meditation's all about. So,
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of, I mean, that's why creative expression is a huge part of what I do. Highly recommend people do. It can be coloring books. When
yeah.
I travel to, I was just at a Sober in the City event in May, and I always have coloring books with me. And I'm a
Mhm.
knitter myself, so I knit at the pool, I knit everywhere because it's very portable. But I bring coloring books because it's excellent. If you want to color inside the lines, you have to ignore everything else. You become
Yeah.
focused. You're coloring. I think it's fascinating too to see which colors do you start with. Do you start with the colors, for example, let's say you were drawing a tree or you were coloring in a tree. Do you start with the trunk? Do you start with the flowers? Do you start with the
Mhm.
leaves, the sky? Where do you start? Do you care if
Mhm.
you color inside the lines or outside of the lines? There's so
Mhm.
many beautiful opportunities to be curious and compassionate with yourself, even with crafting,
Mhm.
to just, I find it fascinating and it keeps you busy and
Yep,
it is meditative.
it
Everything
is.
slows down and it's also crafting scientifically now has, they're finally telling us what we already knew as crafters, which is it's a creative problem solving tool as well.
For sure. The
Absolutely.
two places I have the best ideas are in the shower or when I'm doing some kind of creative activity.
100%.
Yep,
100%. Yep.
yep,
That's
absolutely.
absolutely. It's
And
and I also think too what you were saying is really important that people think they're not good at it or they can't do it. Being creative doesn't, as you said, it doesn't matter what it really looks like. It's about the process. And I would say gardening is creativity, cooking can be creativity, baking for sure can be creativity. It doesn't anything cutting and pasting, as I said, coloring books, paint by numbers.
singing at the top of your lungs in the car where nobody can hear you.
100%. Yeah, just singing, make up your own song, do your own rap to something, loosening the restraints on what we think creativity is and creative expression is a huge win for any person, particularly adults. We tend to be very serious. And I'm sure with you with drinking, you'll notice that your creativity is far more accessible now that you're not drinking. That's another thing. We used to think, oh, drink and then you'll be creative. No, 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 no.
Hmm.
Drinking just messes it
When I
up.
when I returned from my treatment center and I had my kids, 75% of the time, but then 25% of the time they were with their dad. And during those weekends and those evenings, I didn't know what to do with myself. And my sponsor sent me off to Michael's and she said, go get paint by numbers.
Yeah.
And that
Yep.
literally saved me from those like yawning hours of time that I used to fill with just sitting in front of the TV and drinking. So
Absolutely.
it was amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed our time together so much.
Me too. So
Thank you for this
fascinating.
conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, it reminds me, this whole conversation has reminded me that recovery from anything that is holding us back or holding us in addiction, it's not just about removing the substance. It really is about returning to yourself.
Mhm.
Or in my case, I didn't even know myself because I started drinking at 8. It's about learning to listen, find and then listen to your intuition, to your truth, to the version of yourself that's been waiting patiently for years. And for those of you listening, I want you to sit with something. Where in your life have you been forcing yourself through, pushing the rock up the hill when your soul is asking you to soften? Or what part of yourself have you abandoned? What would it feel like to reclaim that and to come home to yourself again? So I want you just to let whatever rose up for you today to be a doorway, a whisper, an invitation. And as always, thank you for being here. Thank you for receiving these messages and for choosing clarity over just coping. Thanks for listening to the Sober Life Rocks podcast. And if this conversation moved you, please, please, please like it, subscribe it, share it so more people can find this space and feel a little less alone. Thank you.